9th planning and zoning meeting for Mexico Beach. And I'd just like to note that we've got all our members here, so the alternates can certainly participate but won't be voting when you call the roll. And we can help you with who the alternates are. I guess you've got them on the list. So go from there. So to start with, I'd like to have you take attendance.
Mr. Hogan?
Here.
Ms. Metcalf?
Here.
Mr. Kerrigan?
Here.
Mr. Driver?
Here.
Mr. Masters?
Here.
Do I need to call attendance on the
Yeah,
alternate?
that's
Okay. Ms. Lindsay?
Here.
Mr. Bush?
Here.
Perfect. Okay, we're here to look at a replat request. I'd like to open the public meeting for that. 109B South 37th Street. And do we have anybody here that would like to discuss anything on this particular situation?
Just explain, if you will, I don't know if it was just me probably, late last night when I looked at it, I was a little confused, so explain.
Just hang in there a minute. And
Okay,
we've got a good explainer here.
okay,
Yeah, Lisa.
good, not just me.
Are you all set or do you have anything? JL, you wanna tell us what's happening?
Yep. I originally owned 109A. 109B is owned by my mother-in-law. 109C is my mother-in-law. I bought 113C, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the right? To the right of me, which would be now 1, 2, 3, 4 lots, townhouses, all townhouses. What we're doing is I'm using 113C, 109A, and 10 foot of B, because my mother-in-law only wants to build one townhouse. So as the plat, I have it surveyed on the lot, showing you where the house and the setbacks would be, basically showing the same footprint of the old ones, but we're taking 4 lots and now having 2 units. So the density's down, we met the requirements of the setbacks on everything having a single family lot. What was confusing is that where it said A, it should have said C. So it looked like 2 units. It didn't even make sense because you couldn't take one for nothing. So I apologize, that was handwritten in here in the building office in May, and no one ever looked back at it until Ms. Castro and I reviewed it, and she fixed it on her handout that I believe y'all have just gotten, which actually is better said than what I just said, so thank y'all, I appreciate it.
So to clarify, we have currently 4 town home lots. We'll have 2 single-family dwelling lots.
Yes.
1 single-family, 1 townhome.
It'll stay a townhome on C and the 6 foot of B.
Right.
The only lot split we're talking about is the B unit.
So B, 109B sounds like the question in this whole deal.
It is the only question, except knowing that 113C is part of the equation because I bought it.
Yeah, 111C.
111C. I'm sorry.
But, I mean, he wants to take a part of 109B.
Correct.
B, that's it.
So do you own 109B?
My mother-in-law does.
And it's a joint request, both owners.
Yep,
They're both owners?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, I was confused, I mean, I didn't know if somebody else owned it. You
Oh,
just-
no, no, sir.
And when it's all said and done, you'll meet the new setback requirements.
That is on that last page, that setback for the house. Yes,
Front,
sir.
back, and sides.
Yes, sir.
What do you plan on doing with 109B if it's unsuitable to build anything on it, once you take that 10 feet off of
When I take the 10 feet,
it? Yep.
my setbacks is 7.5 feet, but I'm actually gonna be like 11.6, I believe, on the sides. I made a few copies of color. I know y'all's was not the best quality. It was what I got, but Bill asked me last night to make a few copies. Pass that around, kind of, the red is the house. And I kind of walk you through.
So Alex, to answer your
Yeah.
question, he's gonna take 10 feet of that lot,
Right.
his mother-in-law's gonna take the other 6 feet and make her townhome larger.
Yes. Be a single unit instead of.
That's Miss Tolleson, who's the second.
Okay, because I thought I read something in here where one of it, when you take that, it would be unbuilt.
They're both, when you combine them, they're still small enough that they could be considered unbuildable, but they had structures on them prior to the storm, and there's an ordinance that says you can go back to one dwelling
was
unit.
So then, does his mother-in-law need a variance also?
No, it's combined, it's both.
Okay, so this is, okay.
Does that make a little more sense? The red is the house. You can kind of see C, you can see B. All of those lots down there, except for my A, was 16 foot wide. So 10 and 6, the actual townhouse was 16 foot wide, and you go from property line to property line.
So that was Pier Road on it.
Pier Point,
I can't remember exactly what was there before the storm, but it seems like it was a bunch of very narrow townhomes. Was that on
16
both
foot wide.
sides?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So now that would change. It'd be a big, beautiful home there. And then what on either side of that? Bunch of little townhomes or
It's been-
replats get requested?
We've had some replats that you guys have already approved.
Mhm.
Did anybody ever discuss having like an overlay in that area since they were all contiguous?
We brought it, yeah, good question.
Somebody came up with the idea that there's gonna be a roof this way and there's gonna be a roof this way and Lisa, you were here.
I was here,
Bill,
it was,
if you
it
would
was
just
that gentleman
reform
that,
what you,
Yeah,
what you
Um,
presented to the council.
yeah. That was in our last meeting, we discussed that.
Right,
And I went to the next council meeting and presented that in the council meeting.
okay,
And there was no appetite whatsoever in the council meeting to follow through with
follow
that.
through that, okay.
Absolutely none. Good question, though.
because we tried to do that at the beginning, okay? All the 9 people that were attached to me, we've tried to get them together and either rebuild all 2-story ones or try to build them together, because understand what's happening here. Some of the ones across the street, now we have to be elevated, so we're on piles, okay? Townhouse, you get to go right up to your property line. So if one townhouse gets built, you can build your piles only on your side. 2 years from now, somebody wants to build that other townhouse, what do? You can't put the piles next to it without destroying the side of a townhouse that usually is touching another one. So we're trying, it's not working right now, to get everybody on board, whether they sell their lot, so we can build them and submit them to the city as 5 total units, which I have my license and that's what I wanna do. And I think that's the way to do it on the left side is what I'm trying to do. The right side, Larry and a couple other people are working on it. The ideal thing to do is to put one pile and have 2 buildings sitting on one. But not everybody can get on the same page. That's the problem. At the end of the day, somebody that hasn't made their mind up whether they're gonna rebuild or sell, don't wanna put $15,000 into a foundation that they have no idea whether they're gonna build on or not. That's the
I
problem.
need to see, I want to see.
So I can visualize the home and there's plans. What's the other structure that we're
It's
talking
a
about?
townhome, so instead of 16 foot wide, she'll have a larger townhome because she's gonna take 6 feet of that,
Where is it
lot.
related to this sketch?
It's not on here, she's A, where's she? She's A.
That lot line
Let's see.
is what her townhouse will be. It'll go from there to there. It's 6 foot plus 16, 22 feet.
So C?
C, and D's the one we're splitting. See that? This 16 foot right there is B. From there to there,
So her townhome would look,
exactly.
And then
just
what
like the
happens
other
there?
ones.
Um,
There's another one gonna touch it right there. There's 5 other lots to the
Okay.
left.
And you,
And there's 4 lots that way
but that would be
from
in
that
excess of
lot.
7.5, that's 11 feet, okay?
Yep.
So basically, you own enough property that you can just do away with, eliminate the.
Me
headache.
touching, me
Anybody.
calling it a townhouse, yes, sir. That was my whole I already had a double lot. 109A was already, I had a 30-foot unit already there. That's the structure that was there already. Because I had an end unit. It's the one that came in and got all the trash from, walked behind ours, and we always had the bigger unit on that end.
Okay. All right, anything else from the public? Okay, I'm gonna close the public part of the meeting and open to any board comments or questions.
I have some questions. Looking at your elevation here and at the floor plan, looks like you've got 3 stories with living space on the first floor, is that correct?
The basement side, the lower side,
The bottom.
no, I don't have living space on it.
Well, what you've got here for your first floor plan says that, you've got bedroom number 4, bedroom number 3, kitchen.
Yes, sir. That's elevated. That's, first floor is elevated floor.
It's not.
This is a 2-story house with on piles.
Well, and what's with the
There's-
third floor plan? What is that? Just a,
A turret,
okay.
you can see it right here on the elevation. It's just 3 foot higher than the second floor. See how much?
That's the, this is what's gonna get confusing, it
What
says
is
first
this?
floor plan.
That's the turret.
Shows-
Yeah.
That thing you're asking about, the 3rd floor.
What's your total height to your peak of your roof?
Oh, okay.
I'm under
All right,
the minimum, 32, whatever, 31.6 or whatever it is.
Yeah, Mr. Brooks isn't asking for any variance from any of the codes.
Well, I understand that, but when I look at this elevation view, that looks to me, if we go, what is it, 11.5 for the freeboard?
I think
It's,
6 something there.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're in the CCCL or no?
No,
You're not. You're not.
No.
Yeah, it's a 1.5 feet above base flood elevation for the 2%. So,
So your pilings are gonna be how tall?
well, they can be 6'6", but I'm gonna go 8 foot so I can drive up underneath it.
So I think the
Well, the
question,
building department's responsible for that, but I can't see how you're gonna get 6 foot, so that'd be 7.5. That sure looks to me like it's gonna be a lot taller than 40 feet.
There's no way.
yeah, it's on this,
I don't see any measurements on here at all.
okay.
What, is that what we're here to discuss? 'Cause I.
No, but I'm just questioning that.
Well, I got 10 foot main floor,
32.
I got 9 foot upstairs. And then the 3rd floor goes 5 foot above or 4 foot above. That, there's no way it's even close to 40 feet.
Yeah, it's blurry. It's on here, but it's blurry.
yeah, it's hard to tell, it's too small. Too small for me to see.
but that would certainly be reviewed at the building.
Yeah, the building
Yeah, I have
department
to
does
do
that
that to the
review,
building.
that's not the responsibility of the P and Z board
Right.
unless they're requesting a variance from us.
I understand that, I'm just saying, when I look at this, although I'm not in the building department, I question it, because it doesn't look like it fits the LDR
On height,
on height.
yeah.
And this is an April 2016 plan, correct?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the date
That's the
says
date on it.
4/22/16, revisions 3/15/17.
Yeah, that's the start of a plan. I haven't got the plan completed
Now, that was,
because
that was before we changed.
So, Mr. Brooks, I can see your numbers on this plan.
Yep.
From the ground to the top of that 3rd floor, it's 38 feet 10 inches.
Right.
But that, you start at the city's freeboard, the city's required minimum, which is 6 feet.
6'6" roughly.
But,
So that puts you in at 33
The
33
height.
feet and 10 inches.
but the max is 32, right?
Above,
Under the new.
Yeah, but I don't know for sure yours is 6 feet. Lots are different, it depends on the
Right.
topography of the lot. But you're really close, but you'll have to be under that 32 feet
Yeah, I know
from
that.
your,
But I haven't gotten that finalized
Right.
because I ain't even got this approved, so I'm not
Right.
gonna spend $5,000 on my plan before I just gotta meet that at the next step.
correct,
Yeah,
with
I
the
mean,
building department.
Right, exactly, and I know that. Sandy and I talked about that.
Well, we're not here dealing with the bill, we're simply dealing with the reclass of the
Right.
property.
anybody else have any thoughts or questions? I'd like to just pass on a comment then to the building department to check that height and make sure that that's within the scope of what we're trying to do here, because we've been very strict on that all the way along
Mhm.
for everybody.
Yeah, and if you've dealt with the building department, I can tell you they're very strict as well.
Yeah.
But I will make a note on the variance.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the replat request, based on the reduction from 4 dwelling units to 2, and consistent with staff's recommendation.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Laura.
That's okay.
Both of us.
Can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hogan?
Yes.
Ms. Metcalf?
Yes.
Mr. Kerrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Driver?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Okay.
First step is done.
Yep. I would like Jenny to, put on the August 5th agenda. When I was at the council meeting, they brought about minimum, house size again. We'd kind of been down this road, talked about it here in this meeting, lobbed it over to the council and they lobbed it back. So now since the storm, they want us to revisit that. So if you would put that on the agenda. It also came up for, minimum lot size, which we kind of have covered under the density part, but maybe we need to clarify that a little bit in the LDR, so it's clear, the number's right there for each, high density or whatever it is, all the way down through there. But that's where we are, so I think we should talk about that, and they asked us to get back to them on that.
Now, just to give you some background on that came up because Titan is selling the tiny homes. And they're really promoting them for Mexico Beach. So when we saw that, I passed that on to the council members to see if they even wanted to take a look at it. And Mr. Pollock put it on the agenda. So as you're thinking about that, the goal wasn't to try to prevent people who had maybe a 700 square foot duplex before or whatever. We just
Right.
didn't want to become a city of tiny homes, or we didn't think that our residents would want us to become a city of tiny homes. So that's what prompted that agenda item, so just to give you guys that background.
And in the meeting, Mr. Cathy said that, I guess there was a lawsuit way back when on something, and they went back to the plats. And, his recollection was that the plats say, 700 would be a number that, is on a lot of the plats as a minimum square footage.
Yeah, Florida Building Code requires certain amount of square foot for kitchen, for a building, and it's probably 700 gets you a 1-bedroom, 1-bath home.
I think it's actually less than that. I think so, and I just, because I'm trying to get ahead of this, I did call, Gulf County and Bay County and asked them if they had minimums, and they do not. They have no minimum square footages, so be good for us to kick
And
that
of course,
around.
St. Joe does. Be interesting, the counties, they're typically not as strict on that,
Yeah,
but municipalities usually do.
I'll call them and see.
Of course, St. Joe's, but I know that, and Gina in the building department, Gina Johnson, she's running the building department now, she may be able to, tell you from a building code standpoint what the minimum would be for a one-bedroom, one-bath home,
Okay.
for minimum square foot.
And when I spoke to one of the gentlemen, I don't remember whether it was Bay County or Gulf, but that's exactly what he said, is in the Florida building code, it says you have to have a bedroom has to be so much and a bathroom has to be so much and whatever, but he didn't know what the square footage was, but he thought it was around 495 or 500, you could do all that and make it happen. So, anyway, next meeting. Okay, does anybody
I
have
have a
anything else?
question, I don't know, how big are the tiny homes? Is there, I mean, I'm sure there's
Depends.
variation, but it depends.
It depends, it could be pretty
Okay.
small.
Most of them, those Titan homes, according to their website, are either 399 or a couple of them are 400.
Yeah.
Did anybody ever find out the answer whether those are actually recreational vehicles per the state? Because that was something I had asked, because I know if it's an actual recreational vehicle, it has to have the Department of Motor Vehicles sticker.
Yes, and the answer that I got back is some are and some aren't.
Wheels.
It depends on how
It's
they're
about the
constructed.
wheels. If they can take the unit off of that trailer, then it's not considered a recreational vehicle. If it stays or is built where the wheels are always on it, then it's a recreational vehicle. That's the way I understood it.
That's correct. So it could be either or.
And the code's getting written in the state of Florida and Georgia because of tiny homes. Bringing amendments of the code in to try to make sure, because those things are built somewhere else and brought in, well, they're not to whatever code that you're driving to, that's why they make them be a recreational vehicle. As soon as you make it permanent there, then it's gotta meet the codes. And they're being built somewhere else, they don't know what codes they're being built to, electrical and all that stuff.
Okay. Anything else?
I have two things. First, I won't be here for the October meeting, be in Wyoming. And the second thing is, I understand that the city council didn't show any interest in an overlay district. But maybe I'm an alarmist, but I can see all kinds of things going on 37th Street, which are really gonna end up being weird as far as heights and stuff are concerned. And if nobody else on the board agrees with me, that's fine, but I personally think that that should be raised in more detail with the council.
Well, let me remind you guys that when our land planner was here, and he presented an architectural overlay, it was shot down by everybody in this room immediately. He didn't even present it before he was shot down, and everybody made it about the color of your home and all of that. He saw that coming and tried to be proactive and provide an architectural overlay for that very reason, and it died, and.
He was shot down because it included all of Highway 98 and all of 15th Street.
But what he said, but that issue is not just Pier Road, we've got that issue all over town where we have multi-dwelling structures, we've got the same issue. But what he said to you guys that night was, he was presenting a standard overlay, you could pick and choose what you liked, what you didn't like from it, but he didn't get very far.
Actually, he said we can start with Highway 98, and if it goes over well, we can expand it to the rest of the city. He didn't quite present it the way you just
It
said.
was a tourist district overlay for the
Well-
high-density residential area.
Now, what I heard that night was he was talking about making the whole town look like the typical neighborhoods in Florida, the Spanish style stuff with the palms. I'm adamantly opposed to that. I lived in Texas for 40 years and every house out there is brick. And you drive any neighborhood you want, you think you're in your own neighborhood. Same thing, I lived in South Florida, same thing, the houses down there, I don't care, you could go 15 miles in any direction, you think you're in your own.
Or you don't even know what town you're in.
Excuse me?
You don't even know what town, when you go from
No,
one town
you
to
have no
another.
clue.
I know, I live down there too.
Tanya, I would say that he didn't do a good job of presenting it, because we've got 3 different people here
That's also
that
not
heard
what I
different
remember.
stuff,
I-
and none of us have heard the same thing. But I think it's something that we really need to look into.
I agree.
I just don't think it ought to extend, for the whole city, or for all of 98 or all of 15th. I mean, 37 to me, I mean, what other areas are there right off the top of your head can you think of where we may have that problem?
We've got townhomes on, Miramar, have the same issue. We've got townhomes on just about every street on the south side of town that are having the same issue. I get
Right behind
called just
37.
about every week about it. What am I gonna do? My neighbor next door doesn't wanna rebuild. One thing that I proposed to the council right after the storm is that they adopt, an ordinance that requires some type of owner agreement, an HOA agreement or something on multi-dwelling structures that puts in place what has to occur after a disaster. But again, the council didn't really wanna get into civil issues, but a lot of cities, especially coastal cities, have something like that, so you don't get into all the civil litigation and uncertainty. It's when you buy that property, you have to agree that this is how, that you're gonna rebuild it like it was, or whatever the agreement is.
Well, but that's not how it is now, and if you're hard pressed to tell somebody like, this gentleman here, how he can and can't, build on his own property. And that's, that's the whole, I think that's how everybody feels. Everybody's like, I own this, I paid for it, it's just like, if I wanted to put a smaller home on it, cause that's all I could afford, they'll give you a hard way to go about the square footage. Because not everybody can afford a $300,000 house, but they have their property, so you're gonna tell them, sorry, you can't live on your property because you can't put, it's,
Well,
It gets rough.
condos have HOA agreements, and
Sure.
they're, I mean, and it's not telling people what they can and cannot do, it's just a minimum, standard of what, so if you have a townhouse, at a minimum, you've
Well,
gotta rebuild your townhouse back, I
when
mean,
it's a
those types of
townhome,
things.
I agree with
And
that.
that's all we're talking about, is just the multi-dwelling structures. If it's a single-family home,
Yeah, I could care less
There's no
about
issue.
single family homes, but down there in 37, the number of people that plan on rebuilding townhomes, I mean, if somebody decides to go up 30 feet and somebody else wants to go up
So you're
35 feet.
concerned, Jim, with how it looks?
Yeah,
That's why we all need to,
and it
those units need to
behooves
be
the
drawn
people
together.
building to have the same roof line too. You get a lot more protection from the same roof line, rather than have 4 or 5 different roof lines going on.
But we never had the same roof lines before, which was
Not
crazy.
too much.
We had so much roof,
Oh, God.
they were storing a house, now we need to build 2 stories, like the ones on 38th, where the roof is all the same. No doubt, I mean, they
Is
need to
the
be built
pier-
that way.
Is the pier due to be rebuilt? Who knows?
Okay.
We could go on and on for a couple more hours.
so do you want me to get that architectural overlay for you guys again to start? I mean, that's not a one meeting thing, you may wanna have a workshop just to go through it and take out what you don't like.
Let's chew on it a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of interest here in doing it.
I'd like to see it, what I remember, my problems with it, it seemed primarily cosmetic. This is what it couldn't look like in terms of color and the exposed concrete block, which there's a nice home right down the road here that I said, that wouldn't be allowed in the future. There were so many things that,
Right, it was
it
straight
wasn't about
lines.
height and
Mhm.
size and massing and scale, it was
Look,
more about how do we make it to look more 30A-like and not
Yeah.
Mexico Beach or St. Joe Beach like.
Yeah, and I was at that meeting also, and there were a lot of citizens
Yep,
that just
really did not want.
did not
Did not want it.
even give a hoot
Well, most
whatsoever.
citizens don't want a guideline to begin with, I mean, they,
Speed limit or anything else.
yes, correct. No guidelines.
Well, bring us what you have, we already have it, so let's take a look at it.
Here's something that we received at one of the meetings, an update, so I'd like to request an update to this. This was helpful, out in the public, I get a lot, in here it's kind of zoning, out there it's planning, with Mexico Beach planning, so we're now entering phase 2. If we could get an update on this.
We started that, I think we've done 1 or 2 updates to it, but not a whole lot has changed, on that.
Well, it just seemed like that we're hitting a major date on this, where phase 2 begins August 1. So I'd like to see what happened in phase 1 and maybe got what pushed off to phase 2, but just, thanks.
I realize I'm not up to date on the council, what the council's doing, and I apologize for that, but what was their response to the density issue that St. Joe wanted to increase the density over on the other side of the canal?
They voted to, I think it was a 5-0 vote to move it, to send it to the state to review. It's in the state's
Take it.
hands right now.
So they voted to allow them to increase the density?
Yeah, let me,
47, wasn't
if I could, since you brought that up, just give you a little background on that. In 2004, 2007, whenever the St. Joe Company, annexed that land in as mixed use, there was a state agency established to oversee coastal construction. And at that time, that agency restricted St. Joe's density. They didn't allow them to build to the density in the land development regulations, they restricted it. That agency has since been disbanded, the process didn't work as well as they had hoped, so the agency's been disbanded. And now it's just all handled out of the Department of Economic Opportunity. And so St. Joe is coming back, and they're just saying, we want the same density that any other property owner would get if they have a mixed-use development.
So that was done by an outside agency.
Correct.
They weren't happy with it, but that's what they had to do.
Yeah, that's what they had to
Okay.
do at the time.
That's-
So they're
that's
just
fine.
asking to go back
Yeah.
to the same density that any other owner would get today.
I think if we had been told that when we had that vote, we probably would not have voted the way that we voted.
We weren't told that there was some outside agency that has since been disbanded. We were just told that on or about 2006, this change was made, and we're really not sure why.
The St. Joe representative did explain it in the council meeting, so she probably, I guess from the feedback.
We educated her a little bit.
Right.
There you go.
Okay.
They're
And
wrong.
so that was explained, but, and I tell that to people every day, but there's so many people out in the public who
Right.
still don't understand that what they're asking for is what any other owner would get.
Well, I mean, that's
if they
something
were
that we
developing.
can help educate the public now that we know.
And I think, you know, having a little time to talk about what's going on in the city and stuff like that, because we're all representatives out there. You know, people just hear, you're on the board, whatever, and what's happening, and when's the walkover's gonna be done, and all those kinds of things. So it's nice to know at least a little bit, and it's helpful, so we appreciate it.
Any news on reopening 98?
The end of August, it'll be open.
And another, are we planning on building any kind of monument or memorial or anything? I mean, something should be put up somewhere to recognize.
What we beat.
And I was thinking up here where
You beat
Sunset
Michael?
Park, you know,
Like
I'm a big
you know,
fan.
build a tore down house or something. You know, I don't know what you would put up.
So there.
I'd like to see something put up.
It's interesting.
We have, right now, we're just trying to get the money to rebuild what is
Whatever.
essential.
Yeah.
But we have talked about doing something at the pier.
Is there going to be any kind of get together, anything around October 10th?
There's a big event happening
I
at
heard.
Beacon Hill Park,
Yeah.
at Veterans Park. for the
It
event.
started out small, but it's going big.
I can answer your question about the walkovers if you'd like to have that
Sure.
answer. We have the first three in place. The first one down, I think it was C Street, they got a little low below elevation, so that's been raised a foot. We're doing the ones up until the DOT work, and then we put it on hold until DOT finishes and gets out of there, cause we didn't wanna, you can't really design the elevation and know where you're putting it until that work is
Yeah.
complete. Most of them on the west end of town will go back as the nice roped walks. We're not gonna put when it's a straight it's, you know, a level elevation going out, we're not putting back the wooden boardwalks. We're just gonna do
Any
the.
wheelchair access?
The special events committee worked on that prior to the storm with the Moby mat. So we've reached out to them just to figure out where's the best place to put it, where should we put it. Before, I think it was Sunset Park was the plan. I will tell you that for Sunset Park, the McIntosh Foundation has donated $50,000. McIntosh is the A&P grocery store,
Ah,
family. $50,000 to rebuild, to help with the city's match on rebuilding the pavilions and the restrooms. And then DOT has awarded us a grant for $50,000 to do the landscaping.
nice.
So Sunset Park,
Great.
will be the next
By the way, the dunes look really good with the oats, sea oats planted, all that area that I can see, I can't get out.
They're just about finished with that, they're planting now.
When is the road
rest-
rolling up?
Pardon?
When will the road 98 be back?
End of August.
We might wanna drop a couple trash cans down at the end of those walkovers, cause Janet goes down there occasionally and she's been picking up a lot of trash.
Yeah, we were waiting until all, because we're gonna put back the cans on the posts that were
Yeah.
so popular before, and we were waiting for them to finish all the construction before we put those back.
Problem is people are using them and dumping
There's no
stuff
trash
down.
can.
And I love the palm trees in the creek down here.
You agree?
Yeah,
About what harm?
they took all the palm trees off the beach and lined them up.
Yeah, they're gonna be replanting,
That's a
DOT will
good
be
idea, by the
replanting
way.
all of those trees.
When first time I looked at it, I said, what is that? Then I realized, well,
Yeah, now, those were the trees that the city get, that people could come and take.
those down there by the, right across the bridge.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I thought those were the ones that would be back on the, that were taken out.
No, he's actually been donating those trees to people in town. He's not keeping them all, but he got them to rescue them because no one was taking them. But DOT will be replanting all those trees, all the palm trees.
Didn't they have little plaques on them?
They did, most of them were gone. The storm took most of the plaques. And the ones that we recovered, people would pick them up.
Okay, well, thanks. Do we have a motion to close, adjourn?
What's wrong? Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks for coming.
You wanna keep this one?
Sure.
Jeff, the house is-
Congratulations.
Coming.
Finally.